Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Great Day Houston. As many of you know firsthand, certain holidays like Mother's Day, upcoming Father's Day, often remind us of loved ones we lost. For many people, the chance to feel connected to that person again or find a sense of comfort after loss can mean everything. Our first guest has spent years helping people through grief while offering hope and healing along the way. Tyler Henry became known to millions as the Hollywood medium, delivering readings to celebrities and everyday people.
Do you know of any women in the family who would have dealt with any issues involving like leg swelling or like fluid retention? It would have to be an identifiable feature in a person. And the way this comes across, there's this feeling of like plop up my leg.
Well, her name was Rosalila. She was my mom's sister. She just passed away 5 months ago.
I don't even know what I'm talking about, but somebody wearing someone else's glasses, and I'm like, how can you see through these things? It's like
wear his glasses now.
You wear his glasses now.
He's heading to Sugar Land this Friday for the Hollywood Medium, an evening of hope and healing at the Smart Financial Center. Good morning, Tyler. Thanks for joining us.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. So obviously millions of people know you. A lot of people kind of picked up where they started watching your show, but might not know your early beginnings and how you discovered your gift. So let's go through that. You're from Hanford, California, which is a pretty small town, about 50 to 60,000 people. At 10, you discovered a unique intuition about a family member. Explain to us what happened.
Absolutely. Well, this really started for me at 10 years old. I was very close with my paternal grandmother. She was my best friend. And everything kind of turned a corner when I woke up one night and I just had this overwhelming knowingness that my Nana, I called her, was going to pass away. And at the time, it was really confusing because it felt like I was just recollecting a memory as if it had already occurred. But when I went to go share this information with my mom, I ended up getting interrupted mid-conversation with the phone call. And my mom picked it up, and it was literally the news from my dad that he had just watched his mother pass away. So that was the catalyst. But at 10 years old, you don't really recognize that as an ability.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people who have a story of, they say, and then all of a sudden the phone rang, and they feel like it was either a one-time thing or a coincidence. But what made you realize that this is not a coincidence for you?
Well, these kind of meaningful coincidences would occur over and over and over again. And it took time to really identify what it meant and the meaning that could be extracted from these really powerful moments where space and time kind of align. And I found that would often occur in readings at school, as I ended up sharing information with students and then ultimately even teachers.
Yeah, it's interesting because especially in a small town, you could get people who say, he says that he sees okay, Tyler, right? But then they're the first ones to say, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? You did start honing your craft, if you will, your skill, if you will, with students and teachers.
Absolutely. It was one of those moments where anything could happen when I would be in a classroom. There would be times where I would get impressions around other kids sitting next to me, but even more profoundly, my math teacher. I was awful in algebra, and she and I became very close as I actually had a message about her departed mother-in-law, who she was very close to, who was like a mother to her.
Yeah.
And so after class, as I had taken no notes and did zero schoolwork that day, I came up to her and shared with her a very specific message from or about this individual, and she validated everything I said as being factually correct. So she and I had a very close relationship thereafter, and I think I got like a C in math class.
Yeah, you had some extra credit work there. All right.
That's right.
Oftentimes when we have like a gift like that, we don't think about it as being our livelihood or a career. And you kind of thought about it a little bit, but that wasn't your first trek, was it?
That's right. Well, at the time growing up as a teenager, I didn't think of this as a viable means of getting out there and sharing, this unique aspect of what I do. I thought I was destined to become a hospice nurse. So I graduated high school early. I ended up enrolling in my local community college, and I was the youngest one in my class. And I felt that would be a really valuable way to apply these moments of knowingness in a bit more of a discreet way. But I realized very quickly there was a demand for these conversations. There are so few outlets for people to honor their grief, and I feel like this is one of them that is really meaningful.
I love when you say that, to honor their grief. And of course, you were in that hospice world, we see that so much. People are much more vulnerable and open to something like that. But I love when you say to honor their grief. Okay, so as you know, there are a lot of people who will say, oh, the Bible says, but the Bible is full of prophets as well. And so they'll think, oh, you shouldn't do this. But what you're offering is that healing, if you will.
Yeah, my goal is just to, if anything, verify that there's more to life than what we see, to validate this kind of intuitive knowingness that a lot of people have, that the love that we create in this realm doesn't die just because our loved ones do. And this gets reflected over and over again, this idea that the relationships that we create, they evolve and they change, but death, does not destroy love. And love is truly what it is all about, and seems to be the powering force behind these messages.
Yeah, let me go back to what you just said. You said that a lot of people have. There are some people where it's very pronounced and you've been able to hone it like you. But for other people, they'll say, this happened and then this happened, but we don't pay attention to it. Do you think everybody has that ability? We just, again, we don't foster it?
We all have an intuition, and the word itself, intuition, when broken down, it refers to inner tuition or inner knowledge. And so it's something that I think can be a great survival mechanism, but it also, through the grief process, can sometimes put us at the right place at the right time to notice something that can be meaningful, that allows us to move forward a little bit more lightly, and that's really the goal through the readings.
And it wasn't long before, as we know how this works, as people say, I know somebody, I went to somebody, blew my socks off. I couldn't believe that they knew all this stuff, and it really brought a sense of peace for me. So you started doing readings for celebrities, and it wasn't long before Hollywood says, let's make this a show.
That's right. It was definitely a process. At 19, I got my first television show. There we go. There's
his passing.
What was that experience like for you? Because then it becomes a production mixed in the middle of what you naturally do.
Right. The pressure was on. And that was one of those things where, there would be times where some readings would be really strong, and then other days I'd show up and I'd get very little. And the production company, to their credit, was fantastic in honoring the reality of the experience. Sometimes readings would literally go for 5 hours, and then other times it would be 20 minutes.
Yeah. All right. You have people like Jim Parsons, Megan Fox, RuPaul, David Arquette. Some skeptics became believers after you did their readings for them. Moby, Tom Arnold, Dr. Drew, and there you are with Sofia Vergara as well. In doing this, what is it? I've spoken to different mediums, and they kind of receive messages in different ways. What is it like for you? And do you ask questions, or do you wait to get answers from the people on the other side?
Sure. Well, for me, it's really kind of a multifaceted process. So I often say that the sixth sense uses the other five senses to communicate. So when I do a reading, kind of interface with whatever's coming through. Sometimes it'll be through points of reference that are familiar to me. So memories, certain ideas will sometimes pop into my mind. And so my goal is just to articulate that information in a way that's coherent and validatable, where I can say something factually that someone can either say, yes, that is correct, or no, that is incorrect. And that's really kind of where the talent is as far as being a medium goes, being able to kind of separate wheat from the chaff, so to speak.
Yeah, you've done, as we just saw, a lot of readings for celebrities, but also for everyday people. In fact, it was a point of a show, a 9-episode documentary series, Life After Death with Tyler Henry, and it was from a 600,000 person waiting list. That's got to be overwhelming to know that 600,000 people are just waiting for you to provide that lifeline.
Well, it's so deeply, deeply humbling. It's genuinely, I think, a testament to the need for these outlets, for these points of discussion, and being able to honor those who passed and carry them into our lives in the here and the now.
You recently had a health battle, so you had to step back and take a break. I've also heard from people who are mediums, they say it does take a toll on your body. Do you think any of that was related?
Oh, absolutely. When I do readings, I sweat. I get drenched. It's a very physical process. You'd swear I ran a marathon despite, these guns not reflecting that fact. And I very much, find that it's immersive. And so when I do a reading, I feel drained, but equally invigorated after, because I know that I'm kind of in alignment with my purpose. I think anybody who gets into flow states or finds themselves kind of doing what they feel meant to do, they can understand that feeling. But it is something that comes at a personal cost, and one that I've navigated and learned how to kind of balance.
Yeah. You had a third brain surgery in December of 2025, so last December, and everything is good now. I'm going to ask you something that I know a lot of people have probably said to you. Did you see it coming? And that's the other thing I find out with a lot of mediums. I go, can't figure out what's happening in my own life, but I can figure out everybody else's.
In a lot of areas of my own life, it is like as psychic as cream cheese. I have no clue what's going on. But in that case, medically, I've had a very interesting relationship with this brain tumor that thankfully got completely removed. And I was getting some feelings leading up to it that it would be something I would deal with again. So I'm glad, hopefully, to never have to
Yeah.
face that.
Yeah, we're glad too. All right, you're heading to Sugar Land, to the Smart Financial Center, which is right outside of the Houston area, the greater Houston area. And so with this show, tell us how it works, because if people have seats right up front, doesn't necessarily mean they'll be called on. You may call on somebody who's like way back in the back row as well. But tell us how the atmosphere goes for the evening.
Absolutely. Well, no matter where you're seated, it's an experience. My goal is really to cater to that. The first part of the show usually focuses on explaining kind of how I do what I do, the process, and then we get right into it. Whether you're seated at the very front or the very back, it's equal opportunity. I very often go into the audience. I'll relay the messages that are coming through, in the moment, and it's really immersive and really interactive.
Yeah.
There was a reading recently I did randomly at an event, and the security guard got read.
Oh,
And they were
wow.
not expecting that at all. So if you're in the room, it's free game.
And it's interesting because a reading for one person, oftentimes, so many of us in the room can also benefit from that in our own personal situation. All right, Tyler, you have an app. Tell us about the app.
Yeah, it's called the Tyler Henry Experience, and it's basically just a great way to connect virtually and receive readings. So I connect with people every other week. I go live. I do these readings from the comfort of everybody's own home, no matter where you are in the country. And it's just a great opportunity to get to engage virtually if you aren't able to make it to a live show.
Yeah, all right. So are you already in Houston, or are you on your way here after we hang up?
I'm going to be jumping my little booty over onto that plane, and I'm going to be heading towards you this evening.
All right. Angels on your wings, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Again, the live presentation, Tyler Henry, the Hollywood Medium, an evening of hope and healing, is coming to the Smart Financial Center in Sugar Land tomorrow night. Tickets are still available. For more information, visit greatdayhouston.com, and we will connect you